Okay, we'll check it out in just a sec. So today we're going to give an overview of editing, and then we'll do a walkthrough. And this is chapter 8 in your textbook. And editing refers to updating or editing a feature class, i.e. a vector data set, or creating a new one. So we can take something existing, and that's what we'll do in the walkthrough today. We'll take an existing vector feature class or shapefile, and we'll edit it. We'll move it, we'll update it to more accurately reflect some condition. You can also edit the attributes, right? So editing can be two things. It can be moving the coordinates or the nodes of the vector data spatially, and then you can also go into the attribute table and change information in the database or the table there. So you can see here's an example where maybe they have a base map and this road network is a little bit off spatially, and so they're moving it to update its location and correct it. We're just going to overview a couple major concepts of editing. The term topology, has anyone seen that word before? Topology. We know topography. Yeah, topology really just refers to connections or networks. How are things related to each other spatially? What's the relationship between one thing and the other? And so when we think about topology, we're thinking about road networks. How do you get from point A to point B? A spatial data set that has kind of topology information in it tells you what's connected to what. So roads need to be able to connect, right? Polygons have to share identical boundaries. Topology means that we have this logical consistency in a spatial data set, and we don't have overlaps, we have connections. So when we do editing, we'll look at, for example, a polyline or a polygon, and these are comprised of nodes, which are really just points, and then connections between those nodes. And so correct topology means that, say this is a road network, that our nodes and lines are connecting to each other in a way that makes sense. When we make GIS data, it can be common that things aren't connecting, and so there's some steps that we have to take to make sure that they do connect, because the precision in GIS could be down to the 1/1,000,000th decimal place, right? And so to make things line up, there's some tools we can use to say, okay, I'm close enough, it's going to connect, and it's actually called snapping. So we can snap things together to make sure that they connect. So snapping is a feature. It's kind of something that's built into editing, but you can change it. And the idea of snapping is there's a zone around a node of a certain distance in a radius. And once you kind of drag a node into that radius, it will automatically snap to the other node so that you ensure you're overlapping and connecting properly. You can change that tolerance to make it bigger or smaller if you want to, and you'll do that with the walkthrough for this tutorial for chapter 8. There's different kinds of snapping. We can snap to the end. We can snap to an edge, meaning this connection between nodes. And we can also snap to just any vertex in between. A vertex is just a point in between or a node in between the ends of a polyline or a polygon. Polygons are a little more complicated because it's not just a line that we're connecting, right? And for example, when I am making a map, often I'll digitize land types. That's something that I might use for a hydraulic model, like a 2D hydraulic model. So I've got a river corridor, and a common thing to do for a 2D hydraulic model is to say, okay, here's where the water is. Here's where the cottonwoods and willows are, really rough. Behind that is like an agricultural field that's going to be less rough. And I want to go in and draw polygons and make sure they overlap perfectly like this. so that I can then bring that into my hydraulic model and assign Manning's and roughness values. If I have overlap, then that can mess the model up, and it can assign, I can get errors and stuff like that. So when I'm going and drawing, okay, here's my river boundary right here, and then here's the riparian zone. I want to make sure that everything overlaps perfectly, and then I'm connecting nodes to nodes. And so I can use snapping for that. One of the challenges with editing is that when you do edits, it kind of puts ArcGIS and the shapefile in this, trying to think of the phrase here. They're using this word schema. It puts it in this kind of unsaved territory, and you can't run geoprocessing tools on something that's been edited unless you save those edits. So it kind of takes the feature class or the shapefile out of the geoprocessing world. You're editing it, things aren't saved, so it's kind of in this, the word's not coming to me right now. What's that? Limbo. Limbo, right? It's in this limbo kind of state. And often I've seen this come up time and time again. It happens to me too, where it's like, oh, I forgot to save those edits. Why isn't this geoprocessing tool? I want to do a clip, or I want to do a projection or something like that. And I get this error message. Anytime you get an error message, click on the little info button, and it might help you figure out what's going on. So often it'd be like, oh, I forgot to save my changes, my edits. So anytime you make an edit, go to save, and we'll look at that. And that way you can go and proceed with any sort of analysis you want to do. What this is saying is that a file lock is placed on the feature class until those edits are saved. We've drilled home coordinate systems a lot. We'll constantly be dealing with them. When you're editing, it's really important to have everything in the same coordinate system. GIS will do on-the-fly conversions, right? So you can say, okay, I'm going to create a shapefile in state plane and try to digitize the path or road network that's in WGS 84. And, that's probably going to be fine for mapping purposes. But really, when we're doing kind of editing and tracing and delineation, you want everything to be in the same coordinate system. Otherwise, things can get complicated and errors can occur. It's important to back things up. Once you save and edit, there's no Control Z. There's no undo. There is undo before you save it. So I'm tracing along, and then, oh no, like something messed up, and I didn't, and it all disappeared, right? It just spent 5 minutes doing that. Well, you can do Control Z, and it should pop back up. But once you press save, it resets all that. So saving often is important at the same time, so you can kind of like save your changes as you go. But having a backup file when you do edits is also important, so that if you do mess something up and delete something accidentally, which can happen, you can go back to that backup. So that's just copying the whole shapefile, all the shapefiles, and putting it in a different folder before you start. Now, we've been talking about editing, and the first thing we'll do is edit an existing shapefile. So we'll bring it in, we'll do an editing session, we'll move stuff around. You can also create a new feature class or shapefile. And the way to do that is going into catalog and right-clicking on the geodatabase or just the folder and do create shapefile. And so you give it a name. You can say it's going to be a point, a polyline, a polygon, and of course there's other types out there. N means it has topologic information, it has network information, meaning this is connected to this. Z, of course, means they're 3D points as opposed to 2D points. And then you give it a coordinate system. There's some other steps as well, but those are kind of the basics. So once you do that, you create a feature class or a shapefile, and it exists, but it won't automatically load, and it's empty, so you won't see it. So a thing we'll learn is how to create a new shapefile once you've once you've made the file, you have to kind of populate it by digitizing stuff, right? There is once you create a new shapefile, you need to drag it into your map, into your contents pane or your map pane, and it'll show up in the contents pane, but you won't see anything because it's empty. And then you go to the create features pane, which will allow you to click on the particular thing. So say you made a new address points file, you click on that, and then you'll have some options to just start clicking and adding points where you want to. Here's a Polygon file, and you can click on that and you get different tools for drawing the polygon. We have the modify features pane, and this is modifying existing polygons or shapefiles. And editing vertices is the most basic tool we have, where you just click on a vertex and drag it where you want it to go. Okay. We'll stop there and do our walkthrough. So for this walkthrough, we'll create a new project. I'm going to call it Editing Colorado River because that's what we're doing. So I just went to Map, Create New Projects, and it's going to create a new folder because I have that checked. Great. And then I'm going to bring up our we're going to go to lecture 4.2, handout, editing, vector, data, walkthrough. Let's go ahead and download that. We'll get this river shapefile from the county data. So this will be Colorado River data. Hydrography, rivers, and I want the shapefile. I'm going to extract that to my project folder. Okay. And then let's see here. All right, and now we're gonna, hopefully this works. So we're gonna take this link and then this will bring in our streaming data. Doesn't work for anyone. There's a space. It leads it off at the end. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go add data from path, paste that path in. You can see how it cuts it off in the PDF. So we got to make sure that we do the VER. Good catch, VER. I'll make that font smaller next time so we can do that. We'll leave the service type as it is and keep our fingers crossed. All right. Good catch, y'all. So what I just did is I pasted that full link in, and it brings from the county server this cool 1937 historic imagery. And then we'll bring in the updated data. If I paste it up in here, it'll bring it all together. So let's do that. Add data, data from path, image server. I'm going to try 2020. Let's just see if we get updated information there. Nope. Okay. 2018 is good enough. Okay. Note there's a funky symbol in there. So just got to double check everything. Once you get the web address correct, it looks like this pops out and recognizes it. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my background data. And there it is. So now we have the 2018, we have the 1937 imagery, and then I'm going to go to my catalog folders. And there's that river shapefile that we extracted. It's a polygon, you can see right here. What I'm going to do is make it hollow, because when you edit polygons, things can overlap and it can be hard to see where you're going. And then I'm going to give the outside color, I'll make it blue. And let's make it 1.5 points. So that imagery server is a little slow, so it's going to take a few seconds to load. But once you load it, it should be pretty good. All right. Yeah. You got it? To go hollow, you click on the symbol, modify. Oh, uncommitted. You always have to press apply. You can choose one from the gallery. That's what I usually do is I'll go to the gallery, I'll choose something, and then I'll go and edit it. So color is the fill, and then outline color is obviously the outline. So if it doesn't show the folder and content in the catalog pane, what can you do?
I went to, because it wasn't showing all folders, but I went to map, insert it.
Just add data.
I would click on the map.
Add data. Yeah. So if you don't see it in a folder and you know it's in that folder, what can you do in ArcGIS? There's a trick. What's that? Well, sometimes it won't see it if you just pasted it in the folder.
What's the question?
Oh no, funny bone. What's the trick in ArcGIS? For not, if you can't see a file and you know it's there.
Oh,
F5.
Yeah.
So F5, or you can right click and do refresh. Right click and under catalog and do refresh, and it should pop up. F5 also does it. So that's just some wonky thing with Arc. It's been that way for 20, 30 years. Oh, yeah, Zach knows. To get the black background, I think you go to, it's somewhere over here, options. It's somewhere over here. You gotta hunt for it, but yeah. Yeah, it does. Thank you. Display. I don't know. If you Google it, you'll find it. I like it. It's a little easier on the eyes. Okay, so the next step that we'll do is we brought our rivers shapefile in. We made it hollow so that we can kind of see what's going on. So the river shapefile is a polygon. Let's zoom into the Las Colonias area. So here's Las Colonias. This imagery is from 2018 before they built all that stuff. You can see it's under construction right now. Here's the amphitheater. This is Riverside Parkway. And we're going to zoom in just upstream of the bridge at Orchard Mesa. So here's that bridge, and it says zoom in to 1 to 1000. So I go down here in my scale on the bottom left, type in 1000, and it's going to zoom in really closely, right? And there's that bridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit this river shapefile to incorporate this new river park side channel that they constructed. So that's our task for today. And to do that, to get started, we're going to activate the vector editing tool to modify the bank line. And I guess the first thing we'll do, just because it's easier, is we'll modify the bank line to match the actual bank line here. And what's the bank line? Well, you know, is it the low water point? Well, the water can come up in a flood or during spring, and then that bank line will be different. So it can be challenging to identify exactly what you should do on a river. But what we'll do is, because this is a bluff, if you've been out there, you know this is a really tall, like 30-foot tall bluff that Orchard Mesa is on. So what we'll do is we'll just update the bank line downstream of the bridge to try to match the top of that, where the trees are, basically. So trying to find a tree line, or if you can see an edge of the bluff, something like that. Okay, so to do that, we'll go to Edit, Modify. Click on Modify, new pane comes up. And there's a bazillion tools. You can use these kind of like in CAD to get, you know, 90-degree angles and curves and stuff like that. Right now, we're just going to do kind of rough and dirty. So I'll click on Edit Vertices. Let's see. Reshape an existing polygon or drawing a new shape and crossing them. So reshape will work too. Reshape's a little different. So under reshape, there should be edit vertices. You don't see that? Yeah. The other thing to do is if you do modify, let's see, no. If I go to select right here, and then I select the polyline or the polygon, I can double click. Nope. I can right click and do edit vertices. Does that show up? So this one, is this what you see? Okay. So you've got tools down here. The ones I use the most are subtract, which means delete a vertex, or add. So add is you just click anywhere on the line and it'll add a vertex, and you can drag it. So we're just going to click and drag. And the reason I specified the scale to zoom into is because that's going to affect how accurate or how detailed the resolution of our delineation here. 1 to 1000. When you're editing vertices, you can't pan, right? You could, when you do this is what select vertices to do something to. So it's just important to know that like it's hard to pan. So what I end up doing is I'll scroll, I'll zoom in, I'll zoom out back to 1000. I'll zoom in, I'll zoom out. You can go back to pan too, right? Explore.
Click the rolling wheel. That's pan
Oh,
also.
nice. So if you click your wheel, you can pan. There we go. So I'm going to go back to edit vertices. I'm going to click on this. So if I click my rolling wheel, I can pan. Great. Thanks for that tip. And I'm just going to drag these. Now, this is a basic way of doing it. I can go back and do reshape. And let's see what reshape does. It says it needs to cross, you draw a new line, and it needs to cross the old line in at least 2 places. So instead of moving vertices, I'm basically telling it where to, I'm giving it a new line and telling it where to start and stop. So this is actually a little faster, but maybe a little less intuitive. I'm probably a little far away from the river here. Maybe I want to go back. No. Escape. I'm going to discard that. Let's go back and stick next to the river. Okay.
He wants to bring it all the way to the top of that bank.
Well, I was doing that, but now I'm thinking that's getting a little too far away. I mean, for the purposes of this class, this is not that important, but we'll go back to the river here. I guess that would be more like a floodplain delineation. But I'll stick to the tree line here. Oh, there we go. You can see there's a little side channel there. That's actually where the river used to be. So I'm going to the edge of the trees now, where that side channel is. So I'm still in the reshape tool, and then I'm just going to end it. And you can see how I crossed the polygon in 2 places, and then it adopted that new line that I traced. So that's a nice one. Modifying vertices is a little more basic, maybe a little more cumbersome because you actually have to find the vertices, right? So the big trick though is when you're done doing some edits, just click outside or double click outside of the polygon, and it will update the polygon. You can also right click and tell it to finish. So right click, finish, and it'll update. Now, the important thing to know is that it hasn't saved any of these edits. So if I go back to edit, I have to press save, or I can do discard. If I'm like, oh, I totally messed up, I want to go back. This will discard all unsaved edits. So it'll go back to your last save point. Save all edits, show edits, hide edits. You can be editing multiple shape files, right? So I went ahead and saved those edits. I'm going to keep editing through the bridge, and we can stop at the bridge. But you can see how this is a little bit cumbersome because now I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that vertex. I right clicked on it. I could also just go to this delete tool down here. And then we'll call that updated. So I double clicked outside of the polygon and it updated it. And then I'm going to go press save. Okay, let's go. You keep doing that. I'm just going to talk while we are editing. We can also look at our snapping settings. So snapping is right here. There's different options for how to intersect. These are all selected. These are kind of different shapes that it will allow snapping to occur. Let's go to snapping settings. It says snap within 10 pixels. Let's look at what snapping actually does. I'm going to go back to modify, edit vertices. So snapping, well, basically, if you can see, it's going to snap. Once I get close to that vertex, it's going to bring up the move tool. And I can change that if I go to snap settings and like I want it to be bigger. Let's make that 30 pixels. It's going to snap a lot closer to that than before. Let's make it really big and actually see 100 pixels. Yeah, I guess pixels are pretty small. Let's try 1,000, see if that doesn't. Well, point is you can update that to allow snapping. It's really more important when you're creating features and connecting things together, because you want to make sure that you're snapping to the line or to a point so that everything's nice and connected. Okay, so let's save our edits, save all edits, yes.
Click on that specific save button.
Yeah, so the save projects is just for the map and all the symbology and what shape files are in your map, etc. The save edits is its own thing, and that's just for when you're doing shape files. So now the next step, once you've updated that bank line, let's go back to where this river is, or this new side channel that we constructed is. And let's update it to create a new part of this polygon. Now you'll note that we're outside of the polygon. So we're basically just going to be drawing something new. If you're going to be editing inside the polygon, that's a different thing. And we won't talk about that right now. But just know that if you were to draw a polygon inside of here, it's going to be overlapped. It's not going to be like a hole or something like that. It's just going to be another layer on top. And that might be okay, but that might be bad if it's basically going to have two different kinds of information on top of each other. So let's go to create. Under edit, so edit, create. And when I do create, it says, okay, what do you want to create? And it'll give you the list of all the different feature classes that you can edit and create within. In this case, we only have one, so it's easy. We'll click on rivers. And there's a bunch of tools. Let's see here. Oh, it says snapping is off. There we go. Snapping is on. There we go. Maybe that's what was going on. So snapping is on. Okay, that 1000 pixel was really big because you can see this tolerance, right? It's snapping me all over the place. So let's go back to snapping, snap settings. We made sure snapping is on. We'll go back to, let's just do 20 pixels and see how that goes. So it's snapping me. Here's the river's edge. When you see that white text come up, it means your snaps, right? If you click on something, or if you start creating new things, it'll snap you to either the edge or this vertex, that kind of thing. I'm going to bring it back down to 10. I think 10 is going to be fine for us. Okay. So whenever we start drawing a polygon, we want to make sure we connect it on a vertex. So let's go back to modify and edit vertices. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to add a vertex where we want to start drawing the line. We're going to try to do the top of bank here. It's easier to do this when you can have topographic information. But I'm going to click there to create a vertex. I'm going to click here to create a vertex. So now I've added some vertices using this plus vertex tool under modify. And that's where those are going to be my connection points. I'll go back to create rivers, and I'm going to snap to this vertex. And I'm just going to draw, let's see, create rivers. There we go. Yeah, so we're drawing a polygon. It's gonna be a little funky. I'm snapping to this vertex. Now I'm gonna keep going. And so you see that this is the polygon you're creating, right? It's kind of following your cursor. That's why it's important to have it hollow, because if it's not hollow, it's gonna be easy to kind of lose where you are. So I'm zoomed in a little bit past 1000 here. It's okay. As long as it's but better than 1000. I'm going to find the top of the bank, which is pretty obvious from this grading here, right? I can click the cursor wheel to pan. Thank you, Nick. It's only been about 20 years that I've been doing ArcGIS.
No way.
Yeah.
Do you ever use CAD?
I don't.
That's the same thing.
Is CAD the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't do CAD.
Oh, that's probably
Well,
why.
thank goodness I'm learning from you guys.
Although I do like turn it off sometimes when I'm using CAD. Turn it off. Click CAD, but you select a specific.
Sometimes it's nice to have a different tool.
Yeah, like when I do like apparent intersection.
Yeah.
I always just try to it's kind of funky at first, but it's sometimes
So I said it's good practice to create a vertex and snap to a vertex when you connect to the other polygon. It's not the end of the world. As long as you're on the line and it's snapped, you're going to be okay. I've made it all the way down to the other ends, and I just want to make sure that I'm going to be exactly overlapping this. And the best way to do that is just to trace along it and go from vertex to vertex. And that way, I don't want to create new vertices along the way. So just make sure I'm going to find the next vertex, trace along. Yeah, we're going to go back around. So there's one right here, right? Oh, I didn't quite get it. There we go. And then I'm going to pick this next one up right here. So in all, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that I traced. I connected right here on the line. So let's see. Yeah, so if you did one like over here and like, oh crap, I don't like that one, just go back over it until it's selected like that, until you're snapped. Right click, and then you can do nope. You have to right click exactly on it, and it'll bring up this option to delete. See, there's 2 different windows that'll pull up when you right click for some reason, and you just do delete vertex. There's probably a shortcut key, I don't know it. So if you said, oh, I don't like what I did, I'm going to go back and delete vertex. I think as long as the, oh gosh. Yeah. Sometimes another window pops up. I don't know why. Yeah. It's a longer window. Just ignore that one and go back and try again. So over here, I don't have that clear grading, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. If I had my LiDAR data in here, the topographic data, then I could do a hill shade, and you could really see the edge of the bank or the top of the bank. I'm going to go right across that side channel. We're just going to ignore it for now. And then here's an issue. We'll go back and correct this, but right now I'm going to overlap just to finish this polygon, and then we'll go back and correct that other one. No, because that one's a little bit not accurate, so we'll go back and correct that one. Okay, so I made it back, and I'm going to connect back with my vertex. But it's important to know that I'm not done, because there's another, let's see. There's one vertex right there, and that's it. Okay, so now that I'm done, I have 2 options to close out the polygon. I can just hover over a vertex and double click, and it'll finish it, or I can right click and do finish. Not finish part, but finish. And then it'll load it. I'm going to press save. What's that? Zoom out. Yeah. Oh, escape. So here is the polygon that I just digitized.
Change the color of the polygon to create the gray.
No, you could like if it had a different code and you could just give everything a unique ID. Another way to do is go to select and then just select that one and you can see it because it's an individual polygon.
Is there a connection about that? Like, gives you the- of my river.
Okay. What we can do now is go back and correct this one. Let's just correct it a little bit kind of in this area. We don't need to be super comprehensive, but I'm going to go back to modify and edit vertices. So I did modify. I clicked on this polygon, it highlighted the polygon, and then I went to edit vertices. I'm going to go to just use the reshape tool because I kind of like that one now. I'm learning as we go here too, guys. So what I'm going to do with the reshape tool is I'll start here and then I'm going to draw where I want the new river's edge to be. So I'm going to basically follow this little island patch here. Yeah. And then I connected back to a vertex and double clicked. And then it updated everything between the two intersections of that line, it updated with the new line that I drew. So now it shows the land as being, so this is inside the polygon, this is the channel, and this would be outside the polygon, this would be the upland area. Okay. The last thing we'll do for this, save my edits. The last thing we'll do is we can merge these two polygons together to create one polygon. And I'll give you guys a second. You can see how when I go to select, I select this one, everything highlights. I select this one, that side channel highlights. So these are two different polygons. They're in the same shape file, right? They'd just be two different rows in the attribute table. But I want to merge these together so it's the same polygon. And the key to a successful merge is making sure anywhere that they intersect or connect, there's no space in between. And that's why I was really careful to match the line and all the vertices in between where they connected. If I were to miss a vertex, there could be a little gap in here. And then you would get this little sliver and it'd be a mess and you don't want to deal with that. So to merge, I'm going to go to modify. So I click on modify, and then I'm going to select both polygons. So I go to select, I click on one, and then I press shift, hold shift down, I click on another. So by holding shift down, it allows me to cumulatively select as many polygons as I click on. So I've selected both of these and then I click on merge. I think it gives you another option to select them if you want to. And then I went and clicked merge on the bottom. And now I've successfully merged this into the same polygon. As you can see, it's all one and the same. Yeah. So if you click on, so I have to go to select, right? Click on select under edit, click on one, press shift, hold shift down, click on another. And then merge. And then save. So you might get some weird results if you didn't do a perfect connection with all the vertices. So that was modify. All the way down, I zoomed to construct, so merge, and then I selected those two, and then I clicked on merge and it merged it. Okay, then save your edits. And now we have this nice updated polygon. You could go back and add this side channel, right? And do the same procedure. Okay. So you can do Control Z. If you didn't save it, just do Control Z, go back and modify the polygon to make sure that you're adding a vertex where it connects to all the vertices. Tiny little sliver, right? So you just missed like one vertex, yeah. And you do want to get rid of those. You could also probably select that sliver and delete it. That might be a thing. I'm not quite sure. It might be a hole in the polygon though, so it might not be that simple. In fact, let me just do that. I could just do that example real quick. Let's see here. Okay, I'm gonna create this side channel right here, super quick, kind of quick and dirty. And then I'm gonna purposely ignore that vertex right there. Okay, and it looks like I'm going to search for here. It looks like I'm good. I'll right click and then I'll finish. And then let's go ahead and modify. I'm going to shift. That one's selected. Oh, let's go ahead and save that one. I don't think you can merge things that haven't been saved. I'll go to select, press shift. I'll select those two. I go to merge them. Oh, I didn't get a sliver, so it corrected that one for me somehow. There's a way to get a sliver. I think if it's like outside versus inside, right? Anyway, just too good. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the hourly rate?
Yeah, I know, right? I actually have a job coming up. If anyone wants, I don't know what we're going to pay. It's either 15 or 20 an hour to digitize the Yampa River over, not the whole thing, but over so many years. So this is what we're going to do for the next step. Actually, no, first we're going to clip and import the updated 2018 Polygon layer into a geodatabase. Okay, so we updated this Polygon, right? We saved our edits. We're going to separate out the portion of the river that we updated. Oh, wait, did we do that? Let's see here. I don't think we separated it out. Let's see here. Might have missed a step there. So to separate it out, let's go to modify. And there's a lot of tools here, right? Go to divide. So modify, divide, and we're going to split. And what split does is for a polygon or a line, it gives you this cursor. And to split, all you do is you're going to draw a line and you're going to split the polygon at that line. So I clicked one time, I come over here, I double click to finish it, and it splits it. You can also draw, shapes and split things that way too. So I'm just going to split it at the bridge. And I'm going to do it again here. So I did split, click, draw a line, double click, and then it split it. I did the bridges. So I did a bridge here on the other side. I just did right across the bridge. Yeah. Okay, so save that and then select. And then I select this piece, right? So now it's separated out. It's a separate polygon. It's got a new row in the attribute table. And then I'm going to go right click, data, export features. And what it's going to do now is it's going to export just that selected portion. I could unselect it and it would export the whole shapefile. Or I could select just a couple pieces of it and it would export those pieces. So when you select part of a shapefile and you do this export tool, it's going to only export what you selected. So input features, rivers, output, location. This is the geodatabase, that the default geodatabase that was created with the new project. I'm going to export it. We're going to call it Colorado River Las Colonias. And then I'm going to press OK. So what it's going to do is just export that selected portion. It automatically brings it into the contents pane. If I uncheck the original river shapefile, I get this, just this piece. So that's the new piece. I can go to my contents and bring in my geodatabase, and you can see that there's that little piece right there that we exported. Did you save your edits? Okay. Just go ahead and click outside of it so nothing's selected. Go back to select. And say again.
So once it's selected,
Uh-huh.
you edit that.
Yeah. Okay, so go to rivers under your contents pane. Right click, data, export features. And so input features, rivers, don't change that, don't change that. And then give it a name and make sure that the name, I don't know if this holds anymore for ARC, but I guess I could try it. I could just do Las Colonias with a space in it. I didn't like that. So you have to have it connected. So Colorado River, I could just do Las _ Colonias. And then for some reason, shapefiles and feature classes can't have spaces in them. Press OK. And there it goes again.
Something unexpected.
Okay.
Not sure what
I don't know, to be honest, but what you can do is make sure your edits are saved, save everything, close the map down, open it back up. Okay, so now that we've got this new feature, I'm going to just close down the old river, the original river shapefile. And I'm going to remove this Las Colonias one just to keep it simple. I'm going to delete it from here. Right clicking. So we just have this one Colorado River one. And the next step for this is that we're going to bring in the 1937 data. I'm actually going to remove that so we don't have it. And now the next task that we'll do by the end of class is to digitize this river from 1937 and compare. So you can see this is where the bridge is currently. It's right around here. And we'll just digitize that portion of the river. I'm going to go to my geodatabase. And Nick, if it's stuck for you, don't worry about it. Let's just move on to the next one. Go to my geodatabase for this under folders, right click, new, feature class. You can do that in a folder too. So if I don't want it in the geodatabase, I want it in the folder, I can do new Shapefile. Shapefile and feature class are pretty much the same thing. I kind of use the words interchangeably. There's probably some nuances, but in a geodatabase, it's called a feature class. So new feature class. And you can see that there's this little polygon right here. A feature data set is a folder in a geodatabase. What's nice about those is that you can set the projection to it and some other features, so that anytime you create a new feature class in the feature data set, which is basically a subfolder, it will automatically have that coordinate system, so that you can kind of keep things together. We won't do that now. So we're going to create a new feature class, and we're going to call it Colorado River 1937. It's going to be a polygon. We could make it anything, but we'll make it a polygon. We'll go to next. This is where you can add different fields to it. So right now, just the default fields are object idea and shape. You could add something like a description or whatever you want, but we're not going to do that. Next, now let's choose the coordinate system. It's choosing the current coordinate system, NAD 83, HARN, UTM 12N. That is the first coordinate system that was brought in when we brought in shapefiles to the map. Let's just see what our Las Colonias one is in. If you scroll down here, you can see there's layers, and it lists the layers underneath the coordinate system. So here are the two coordinate systems of the layers that are in our map. You can see that the rivers came in under UTM 12N, and so did everything else. So let's just stick with that. That's a good one. So once that's selected, then we can just do finish. We don't need to go through the other pages. Okay, so it's populated, as you can see it in the geodatabase. If you don't see it, press F5, or like do that, press F5. You might have to do it a couple times, and it'll eventually pop up. So it was brought over here. It loaded into our contents pane. Let's go ahead and make it hollow. I'm going to do black outline. I'm going to make that, I like green, so let's do green. Make it 1.5 points, and then do apply. Okay. So now I have this new feature class I just created, but it's empty. There's nothing in it. If I right click and go to the attribute table, there's nothing there, right? No rows. So no rows means there's no shape pieces of the shapefile. I think I'm still using the split tool, so I'm going to X out of that. Clear. Okay. So now what I want to do, how do I create a new shapefile from nothing? So I'm under the editing tab. Yep, create. Now if I go to create, because nothing's selected except for the new one, I just see this. Okay, so I'll click on that. Colorado River 1937. Here's my cursor. And now I can just rock and roll, but I'm going to zoom in, right? I'm going to zoom back down to 1,000. Well, let's do 2,000. And then now I can just click. So the key here though is because there's different side channels and stuff, let's try to stick with the main channel first. We can go back and do those side channels. I'm just going to trace along where the trees are. I'm going to kind of just stick in the middle of the trees here, that dark line. You can kind of see that there's some portion of the floodplain that comes out here, so we can follow that if we want to. Delineating river margins is definitely an art, and I can see that this is the bluff still, so I'm going to stick on the edge of the bluff. This is on top of the bluff back here. I'm so habituated to doing this scroll that I'm not, I should do that. I'll just take it all the way to the railroad bridge, which is still there. We'll come across, and then now, because I have these side channels, I'm gonna just trace this main channel. And try to stick with that main channel for now. I can go back and do these side channels in a minute. I've spent many an hour arguing with colleagues about, okay, what is a channel, what's not, what's an island, what's not, because like, under low flow, you can see this bar right here, but under high flow, it disappears, right? So what is a feature that we want to consider something real or not? Kind of depends on what your goal is. But in this case, I'm really interested in these side channels, so I'm going to map those. So I double clicked to finish it. Make sure you double click in a space where you want a vertex, because if you click in it, if I were to click over here, it would create a new vertex and finish the polygon. So if you stick on the line or the vertex where you started, I went over here and double clicked on this vertex and it finished the polygon. I can also right click and just do finish. So I'm going to save that, save edits, yes. And then let's go ahead and do those two side channels. Just for fun, I'll start on the line. Again, not trying to get it perfect, just trying to get something a little hard, right? It's kind of grainy, lower resolution, but we'll pick out those trees and that'll be what we consider the side channel. I'll come down and actually we're going to go all the way out here. And it looks like you can still see channel open water right there. So bring it all the way to that vertex. I don't have any vertices that I need to connect with until I get down to here. I'll hop across this side channel. Bring it up. And then this is all kind of sand, but we'll just call this the side channel up to here, up to that vertex. And then right click, finish. And then I'll zoom in and I'll do this one right here. Start at a vertex, come down, and on the line, no vertices. So I'll just do the line back up here. And then I'll end on this vertex. No vertices in the middle. Right click, finish. Okay, save my edits. And now I want to merge all these. So I go to select, shift, shift, shift. I hold shift down, I click on all those. Click inside the polygon. Yeah, so I'm going to unselect everything. I clicked outside to unselect. I'm clicking inside this. That's actually not a polygon, it's a hole. Because I didn't draw anything. This is my polygon here. This is I'm still under create features, so I don't want to do that. Delete. Oh no, Control Z, thank goodness. All right, so select. I'm still under create features. I need to get out of that somehow. Let's just go ahead and X. Oh no, Control Z. Okay, thank goodness for Control Z. Okay, I X'd out that create features thing. Hopefully that's gonna save me. I hold down on select, or sorry, I hold down on shift and I select all of these. And then I go to modify. What looks like construct, merge. And then I merged everything. Ah. Okay. Save all edits. And now I've got this nice new polygon that I've merged. It has the islands in it, right? And then I can bring in my other one and we can compare the two. Oh, I didn't start, that bridge was up here apparently, so I didn't start at the right spot, but that's okay, no big deal. So we can see how the rivers moved a little bit. It's moved up here more, right? This is a new side channel network that was partially constructed, partially just there. This little side channel isn't what it used to be, right? But this side channel has shrunk down, right? I'll save my map. And then we can kind of compare how the rivers moved a little bit over time.